Welcome back to another episode of Speaking with Gravity, where we discuss mental health and how everything affects everything. I'm your host, Kervin, and joining me today in this discussion this exercise discussion, I don't know what you want to call it. Today is Joshua to my left, maybe to you guys' right, and then to my right, you guys' left would be my personal favorite, Miss D. I'm not going to say her last name. But in today's episode, we're going to demonstrate how to use some therapeutic cards. There's different types out there, but the ones we're going to use is called Mind Therapy. And it can be effective for creating space and dialogue and communication. And when we're talking about space, Josh, do you have this QD of the hour? You don't have it readily available.
Oh, I got it. You want to do the QD?
We want to kind of talk about what we're doing is trying to create space, hold space, create space for people to get in contact, get in touch with themselves, sitting with yourself, becoming more aware. So give us that QD of the hour.
Sure. So QD of the hour, QD that's quotable data, another version of fun facts, info for you to be able to give your friends, family, colleagues, co-workers, church members, etc., etc. QD of the hour. The term holding space was first popularized by Heather Plett, a writer and facilitator based in Canada. In a then viral 2015 blog post, Plett described holding space as being willing to walk alongside another person in whatever journey they're on without judging them, making them feel inadequate, trying to fix them, or trying to impact the outcome. At the heart of holding space is being with the person and their emotional experience without trying to fix them or their problems. Research shows that holding space can reduce stress and anxiety, enhance relationships, and improve mental health and well-being.
So one of the things he said was at the heart of holding space is being with a person and not trying to fix their problems. So, whatever we about to go over today, we ain't trying to fix it in this episode. We just want to talk about it and discuss it. And as we're doing this, think about some of the questions, whatever questions that we choose to pick or that are we're discussing. Just think about it on your own, and what your thoughts are, how it affects you. So to give you a little bit more clarity, I'm gonna play a clip from the creator of these therapy cards.
Okay, let's get into how to use my therapy cards. But first, let's talk about the decks that we have. We have the women's deck, we have a men's deck, and we also have a team deck. Each deck, when you open it, is going to have 3 color-coded categories. You're going to have a habit category, which is the peach color, all about understanding your own behavioral patterns. It's going to ask you questions like, what makes it difficult for you to change? Is it your culture, your family, etc.? Then you have your trigger category, which is going to be always the mustard yellow color. Triggers is going to help you understand your coping strategies, your emotional responses. It says things like, when I feel insecure in relationship with others, I blame. Then you have your mindset category, which is all about understanding your mental blocks. It's going to ask you questions like, what do you need to forgive yourself for? Now, each card is going to have a task at the bottom, a prompt at the top. Your job is going to be to answer this prompt. The task is going to tell you how to go about processing that prompt and your answer. So it's going to tell you things like journal, talk with somebody, explore why this is that way. So this is going to be your work to do, and the card tells you exactly how to work through that prompt that it asks you at the top.
So that's what we're diving into. That's what we're going to get into today. So we've done this before. Last time Dee decided that she didn't want to join us on that episode. So it was me, Josh, and Taisha. So this episode, it's going to be Dee will be filling in for Taisha. So, all right. So what y'all want to do? Who want to go first?
D want to go first.
Do you want to go first, D?
Sure.
I told you. Look.
Sure.
All right. So which one you want me to pick for you? Which deck?
Let's do the mustard yellow, since that's my favorite.
Is that habits? Is that the one that's habits?
Now, just don't be
I'm just trying, for our viewers,
I can't remember what.
I can't. I think it's habits. I think yellow is habits.
I think it is. Okay. Not sure, but the question presented is: when you have been proud about how you responded. When have you been proud about how you responded to your emotional triggers?
So that's the prompt, right?
That's not the habit one. That's the other one. That this is
Trigger.
mindset. This is habits. Triggers.
Triggers. Okay.
Triggers. That's the triggers one.
And
yeah.
so the task would be, what was different for you during that time versus now? So when have I been proud about how I responded to emotional triggers? Yeah, I probably shouldn't have went first.
When was the most recent
Yeah,
time?
let me see if I can answer this one. When have you been proud about how you responded? Oh, geez, that.
Yeah.
When have you been proud about how you responded to your emotional triggers? Proud? A proud moment?
That's what I'm saying.
I was
You had one today?
The other day.
The other day. Okay.
I haven't had one, I would say, recently. I don't think I've had one. I'm pretty sure I had one. Nothing's coming to mind that was recent.
I can think of one now.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm ready. Okay, let me try it now. I think I'm ready, Kerwin. I can pick
And
it
that's
up.
why I said, too, you want to take time to think.
Yeah,
you have to think
yeah,
about
yeah.
it because I think
Yeah.
trying to just answer off the rip wasn't helping.
And she did say that in that whole thing when she was explaining it. When I say she, it's Dr. Ebony Butler. That's who came up with it. And she talked about it in several different ways of best practices. One of those things is taking your time to answer these questions, not as has been said in previous episodes, not just reacting. You want to think and process it and respond accordingly.
Yeah.
I think one of the times that I've been most proud of myself and how I responded to emotional triggers was my interaction with the male species.
That sounds so rough.
Well, just in terms of how
Couldn't just be guys, men,
male species.
male species.
So in terms of how we
Spiders.
respond to certain triggering situations, of course, you interact with the person for a period of time, and sometimes we try to make things work that are just not meant to be. And I've always been the emotional paragraph sender, right? Okay. So when I get into my spacing of release, I'm going word for word. And a lot of times it's in a way, or it has been in a way previously of attack, right? You're hitting below the belt. And in this season of my life where I am now, it is altering my expectations of people, right? Allowing people to be exactly who they are, because I believe that people will give to me who they are, right? And so when we communicate now, it's like I'm no longer sending 4-page text messages to communicate a point. What you show me and how you move with me in that moment allows me to say, you know what, this doesn't work for me, right? And in that, I feel like that is helping me to, one, always be in control of certain interactions. Now, spacings, I think it just allows me as an individual to not let my words fall on deaf ears. Like if a person wants to, understand what you're saying, then they'll ask questions, right? Yeah. So I don't need to send you 4 pages, especially because most of the time y'all ain't reading it no way.
Depending on who it's from.
Yeah, right. Okay, so depending on who it's from. So I think that's one of the ways I feel like I'm proud of myself in how I responded. I ain't sending 4-page letters no more like Aaliyah. Okay?
So when you were sending these, just for clarity.
Just for clarity, okay.
When you sending these 4-page letters, are you speaking them into the text, or you literally typing them with your thumbs?
Baby, that
Trigger
thumb is
geez.
like going. Like I used to send, no lie, send these text messages, and of course, us, we have our intermediate circle. So I would send my messages to my sister, and she'd be like, "Why did you send all this?" I was like, "Well, that's what I was feeling in that moment." But I was like, in that reflection, sometimes what I was saying, I was coming from a place of hurt, and so my words were often hurtful. So even if this was somebody that I could potentially pursue a relationship with, I've kind of damaged that just because I responded out of hurt in that moment. And so that was another thing, right? Because you can apologize, but it don't always, those words have already been sent out. So
Those words hurt.
So
Yeah.
were you responding quickly as well? Like you?
I'm
Quickly.
kind of witty. When you're in an emotional place,
Yeah.
like everything comes up. And I think that a lot of times in communication with people, you got to be mindful of that, especially for yourself too, and understanding where you're coming from. Because a lot of times, instead of me just saying my feelings is hurt or something like that, you ain't,
And I'm not gonna lie. So guys go through it too, of course. And I feel as though I go through that before. When what I learned, probably the same thing you learned, is sometimes everything don't require an immediate response, right? Or immediate, responding immediately. Even though you might want to, even though it might seem like I need to respond right now, so they know how I'm feeling. Like if you feel like your emotions, are leading the charge. Sometimes it's like, I just got to scale back and just wait a little bit, and then you start to kind of collect yourself, right?
Right.
I feel like, so I feel as though I've been through that, and I feel as though I've gone through that season, or may still be in that season, as well, when I'm learning that.
I can't.
you can't relate.
I can't relate.
Okay,
I,
With your kids, you don't never send long texts to you? Well, you didn't, at one time, you never sent long
I,
texts
I've
to your
never been the long text guy.
Okay.
I've never been that guy.
kids? Or even not long text, but just responding, like, with your emotions and anything. Okay,
No.
that's good.
I usually, unfortunately, suppress it.
Okay, got it.
And sometimes it comes out the wrong way. Not necessarily in conversations or arguments, but maybe an action or behavior. I probably shouldn't say this, but back in my younger days,
Well, you said that a lot lately.
yeah, but I just need to reiterate, it was my younger days. But if I was in a relationship and I was feeling some type of way, I may not process it with you. I might just go to the next person that I'm dealing with. And I'm not necessarily processing it with them either, but that's my behavior in that moment is I'm just, all right, you want to be this way, then I'm going to do this and be this way. And that definitely wasn't appropriate. In
Not a
no
good
way,
practice.
shape, form, or
a good
fashion.
practice.
Nah, not at all. And I had to learn how to do that once I got married because you can't do that then.
Exactly.
You can, but it won't work out good for you. But I was never the big text guy.
Or even not just texts, right? But just like even when you face to face with people, like responding like with those emotions though and saying something like
Yeah.
that you like
Hitting below
like,
the belt.
Yeah, hitting below the belt. Then you want to say sorry, like D said. It ain't gonna really mean too much. You done said it now.
Yeah, I've been pretty good in that aspect. I don't hit below the belt and none of that stuff. Now I might say it in my head, but it never comes out. And unfortunately for me, my wife she doesn't do that either. So that works out for us. We don't have no lingering words that we done said over the couple of years that we've been together. So that's been a blessing for us. All right, Josh,
It's on me?
is it on you or me?
We can go either way.
All right, I'll go ahead and do it
Okay.
since we started with you. So she did triggers. I'm gonna do mindset,
Okay.
and I believe this is the mindset. The habits one is the other. I'll let D pick it for me.
Okay. No, not the deep, bro.
Just
Yeah.
Not the woo side.
long sigh.
Which self-limiting thoughts do you have that keep getting in your way? Oh, Jesus. So this is mindset. And we were talking about doing different episodes, and Josh sent one about imposter syndrome. Right? So this leads to my imposter syndrome. Which self-limiting thoughts do you have that I don't know enough? Like I'm a good therapist.
Did you read that's a prompt, right? Did you also read
The task,
Yeah.
choose a self-limiting thought and do something this week that goes against that thought. You had to make me do that too. So which self-limiting thoughts do you have that keep getting in your way? that I don't know enough. So even when I'm doing this podcast, if I'm presenting, it's like, I don't know enough, man. I'll go and I'll study. I always hype D up, and she think I just be talking, but D has a way with words that I don't have. Right. And so while I might know the same things she know, when she deliver it, I'm so impressed with it. I'm like, that's how I want to deliver. I want to use those words. I want to connect those words together in a phrase that you could just be like, that's nice. That's a word. Yeah. So I feel as if I don't have enough knowledge to be able to put those phrases and those words together where it's not only soothing, but like, yeah, that person know what they're talking about. Drop. Yeah, like a mic drop. I don't have mic drops usually in my wordings. And then the task that goes along with this is choose a self-limiting thought and do something this week that goes against that thought. So if I had to choose a task, and would it, because I kind of want to get more into the media space and talking, it would probably mean me writing something up and presenting it individually instead of just a podcast form. Because even in this podcast form, I can lean on D, I can lean on special guests, I can lean on Josh to say something that's mic drop worthy. But for me to do it on my own, I would have to probably put something together and then try to do it. So for those of you listening to this episode, since Josh put me on Front Street, either I've already done it or I will be doing it, dropping something soon. All right, Josh, it's on you.
Okay, and what do I have? Habit?
Which one you want?
I'm gonna do habits, and it's crazy because I'm reading a book right now. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
That's Stephen Covey.
Yeah, somebody Covey. I think it is Stephen Covey. Yeah. So this is very.
Josh hit me. We was talking one day, and Josh, we getting ready to get off the phone, and he was like, "Hey man, what book you reading?" So I wasn't ready for that. And at the time, I had just started setting boundaries and find peace. Set boundaries and find peace. I can't even say her name, and I still haven't finished it. But at the time, I was reading, but I couldn't even tell him that because he just hit me. I was like, I wasn't expecting that question. But all right, so what's your?
And another good one I'm reading is The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. But my card, habits. Which ineffective habits did you once have that you no longer have?
Ineffective.
That's my prompt. The task is, what qualities about yourself allowed you to remove those ineffective habits? Which ineffective habits? What wasn't serving me?
You know, some of these we know, and then when we on the podcast, we got to decide what we're going to share.
But with me, I'm really trying to go through and like, what habits?
Is this in the universe forever?
Definitely. I want to say sharing things, whether that I have going on, certain things, or even sharing things about myself with multiple people. Only reason I say that is sometimes, and when you share with the right people, then that's great, right? But I feel like, and it's just something that came to mind, I feel like if you share with the wrong people, then you're going to get the wrong outcomes, of course. And sometimes it's just out of excitement, right? Sometimes just out of excitement. You're just excited about it. You want to tell somebody. I had something yesterday that I really wanted to tell somebody, right? Because I told God first. And then
He already knew, though.
He already knew, but, still thank him, tell him about it. And then I wanted to tell somebody. And I love my family, but I couldn't really think of nobody in my family. I wanted to tell this particular thing. Just because I know how it might have come across. It wasn't a bad thing. But I had to stop myself and just think through it, use a little wisdom. So I called, and I got friends, but it was only one person, only one friend that I felt the most comfortable telling this to. And I guess that habit is, so that's the habit, right? But then that leads to another, I guess that that habit stems from something else, and maybe that's being impulsive, right? Maybe that's a habit as well. And so maybe the tendency to be impulsive, in the past led to that particular habit, just thinking about it. But yeah, and so what qualities about yourself allowed you to remove those ineffective habits? I think patience. Patience. And I think, patience and waiting, being selective. That's not really a quality. I guess that could be a quality, being selective and using discernment. And just praying about stuff first, or going to God first, because like I was saying, like you say, God already know, he do. If I go to God first, I don't know. It might just be some kind of wisdom he give me as I'm talking to him, So that's a quality too, like putting God first, putting God in the center of stuff. You put him in the center, then everything outside of that, he'll affect. So I think those are a couple qualities. Those are a few qualities. Could be more. Those are like a few qualities.
I think it's important to know, as I'm listening to you, and as the older I get, knowing who to share certain things with. Right.
The discernment.
And when you said that about like no disrespect to my family, et cetera, et cetera, I was having this moment one time, right? Mm-hmm. And it had to do with my wife. Shout out to my wife. We had got up that day, and I'd never had this feeling before. We had got up, we were talking and engaging with each other, and she left and went to work, right? And it might have been like an hour and a half later, and I was missing her, like she was gone for like weeks or something, just missing her, and I was like, it's a weird feeling. It's cool, but it's weird. I could only think of one person, family and friends, that I can dialogue with this about, that I know what I'm talking about. And I'm going to get dragged for this if any of my friends listen to this. But this particular person that I call, like, I look at his relationship and my relationship is very similar. And the love that he has for his wife is similar to the love that I have for my wife. And so I called and talked to him about it, and he was like, oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I had that feeling before. And he was just like, he validated it and confirmed what I was feeling or whatever. But I said that to say I couldn't just call any friend. Like, they might have been like, man, you bugging. Mm-hmm. You sure something ain't going on? What's going on? Not that particular one. He knew exactly what it was. And so having... knowing who to talk to, and knowing who your support system is and what they give to you. Like, each person probably gives something different to each other. I got people that I'm gonna ride with, I'm gonna hang out with, I'm gonna have a good time with, and then I got people that I can have that type of conversation with. So.
It's like you almost expect everybody to be happy about what you got going on. You can,
sometimes,
you know what I'm saying?
Sometimes.
You can, and if you're not careful, having that expectation, that'll make you, reach out to like 3-4 people. You know what I'm saying?
And all of them ain't gonna be happy.
Yeah. So it does take knowing, who to share what with.
Yeah.
And thankfully I picked the right person. So.
All right, D, which one you want to do? I think you did triggers last time. No. What did she do last time?
Put it up on the right.
Yeah.
I think I did triggers.
She did the yellow. Yeah, trigger.
All right, so which one you want to do this time? Still triggers, or you want to go somewhere else?
Let's go somewhere else. Mindset.
It's the middle, yeah.
Mindset.
You can let Josh pick me.
Oh, okay.
You picked it last time, right? It wasn't me.
Did I pick it the last time?
Yeah, you picked it last time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you got more faith in Josh than you got in yourself.
Come on, man.
That's what I gathered from that.
You're sick, man.
And she absolutely had, because it's blank. This is no lie.
wow.
It's
So I
blank.
need to- so I need to do
you
another one.
definitely got to pick another one. But that's why she asked you to do it.
Skip her now?
No, we're not today. If that really was the case, we ain't gonna do it. We ain't gonna do it today.
That one blank too.
Yep.
Boy.
I don't- let me take all the blank ones out. Let me go ahead and do that. Cause just your luck, you'll go ahead and do it again.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
Mindset. I think this just tells me what the card is. This is just the explanation of what the mindset is.
Josh, you're horrible.
Hey, man.
Let me just choose. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna just choose for myself. Let me just choose for myself.
Nah, I'm gonna let him choose, but I think we got all of them out now.
Okay, y'all got it solved now. Okay.
Yeah, we got it finally solved 4 times later.
All right. Mindset. What thoughts about yourself have helped you get through tough times? What we think can either clear the way for us or get in the way of us.
That's heaven. Yeah.
That is heavy. What thoughts about myself have helped me get through tough times?
You got a task too, right?
Well, it don't.
It
That
don't
one
give
is
a
not a
task.
task. It explains why that question is important.
I guess the fact that I have made it through some of the toughest times of my life. And there were times when I personally felt like everything and everyone was against me. And all I had was my faith and myself, right? There were people who doubted my abilities. And so I was able to overcome everything that they said I couldn't do, right? Who I couldn't become. And so that alone has taught me that there's nothing that I can't do when I put my mind to it. There's nothing I cannot achieve. And if I have ever experienced success before, then it's nothing for me to experience it again.
Keep going, sis.
That's dope. And read that bottom part. What she.
What we think can either clear the way for us or get in the way for us.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
That go went well with what you just said. That last sentence you made. All right, so.
It's on you.
So me, I did mindset. So I'm gonna do. I think this is habits.
These cards are they really truly are thought provoking.
Well, I did this one on the last episode.
Okay.
I remember that from last time. Might have did this one too. What situations, and this is habits, right? What situations lead you to engaging in old, ineffective habits? What situations lead you to engaging in old, ineffective habits? My immediate thoughts is, so I have that short man syndrome, where I feel the need to overcompensate. Going back to my original thought process of not knowing enough, right? I didn't go to Harvard. I went to Anderson, which is not a bad school.
Y'all got a football team now?
Now, definitely got a football team now. And I went to Troy. You never hear anything about Troy. And then I don't have a specialty, right? Those are my thoughts for why I don't feel like I have enough knowledge. But which situations lead to you engaging? So now feeling as if I got to prove myself will lead me down ineffective habits. And, in the past, those having to prove myself is, acting like I'm the big man on campus, more or less, in various ways. So, feeling the need to overcompensate and do way more than necessary because I'm 5'7" and 117 pounds soaking wet. So the task was to identify what happens in these situations that lead to the old habits. So with that task, I have to remind myself, okay, I've done X, Y, and Z, or I am competent, or I'm gaining more knowledge to go with what I already have. So,
Can you read it for me again? The question.
the question was, which situations lead to you engaging in old infective habits?
Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like when I haven't come up on that situation in a while, sometimes I may revert back to something I used to try to do, to solve that problem. Even though I've learned habits to effectively
Over time, yeah.
address it. It's like, oh man, I haven't come up on it in a while. Though whatever I came up with to effectively address it, that habit, I haven't practiced it in a while. So it may not be readily available in my mind for me, And so if I'm not careful and I try to react quickly or respond quickly, I could respond with the old habits, So it's like
It's like it's second nature. So
yeah, it's like you still, okay, Joshua, you still putting into you still developing that habit. You haven't been tried in a while. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you still developing that habit. So at that point, that's helpful though to go back and reinforce the habit that I found out this is effective. That's encouragement to go back and reinforce that habit in my life, right? It's almost like that trial is almost like a reminder. But if I'm not careful though, I could go back to those old habits, Yeah.
So that's why these therapy cards are so important, that they kind of think about these things before stuff happens.
Before stuff.
So that you can, being proactive in your thought process. All right, it's on you, Josh.
And that's one of my 7 habits too from the book, is being proactive. Like that's the number one. You start out with that. If you can't be, I think it's this one. Trigger.
You're gonna make
everybody
everybody
proactive. Then
you're gonna make everybody go get that book.
man, that's a good book. I'm telling you, it's a good book. Man. And it's good because you got these habits, and a lot of people I feel like would just talk about being proactive. Talk about it in 10, 15 pages. My man take like 30. Somebody might talk about it in 5 pages. That's all I feel like I need to talk about being proactive. This man take like 35 pages to talk about it. So he really
diving into it.
Yeah. So, okay, so we're on triggers.
Yeah.
Finish this sentence. If I am overwhelmed, I also feel blank. Then task, what do you have the urge to do in response to this feeling? Discuss if this response is effective. If I am overwhelmed, I also feel rushed. I also feel rushed sometimes. If I got a lot on me, then I feel like, oh man, I need to go ahead and do this, and then I have to like challenge myself almost to get just to not rush myself, not rush myself in responding or reacting. That's tough. Well, I also feel rushed. So what do you have the urge to do in response to feeling rushed? Sometimes I have the urge to do nothing. Just go lay on,
Right.
just go lay on the couch like, hey, I need a break. I just started 5 minutes ago, but I need a break because I'm feeling overwhelmed and rushed.
And that might be your answer.
I feel like it's
The slow it
sometimes.
down.
I feel like it's situational.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Oh, you saying that may be
That may be a
something that I
possibility that you could do. Yeah.
Yeah.
To do nothing. And
That's a good point.
with the thought of like, who's to say I have to get it done now? Like why? Like obviously, if it's a project at work and you have a deadline, that's who's to say, right? But sometimes we get to the point of like I get overwhelmed with house chores and stuff like that, and it's like, who's to say this got to be done by the end of day Tuesday?
Yeah.
Or I have a need to be at a certain spot in my life, career-wise. Who's to say I had to be there by the time I was 27? Who's to say I was supposed to be married by the time I'm 35? Or I was supposed to, like, all of these things you feel overwhelmed from, you feel rushed to do because, you know, somewhere along the way you've gotten in your mind that it needs to be done. But who's to say it really needs to be done by that time? Why not just stop? Really assess, does it need to be done by then? And even if it was a project at work that needed to be done by 3 p.m., why are we getting it done by 3 p.m.? Can I go and talk to my boss about it? Can we brainstorm and say, hey, can this be pushed back to later this week or tomorrow? In some instances, it won't be. And in those instances that it won't be, now your boss sees that you're overwhelmed. Maybe they can come in and help you, you know. So
Yeah, I feel like I was telling somebody just that the other day. But feeling rushed. So sometimes I get that urge, and sometimes I get the urge to respond quickly and respond impulsively, and that's never the right thing. So I get those urges, I do. But like you say, it's something that I've been working on too, and continue to pray about that.
I really like that one.
yeah, I was about to say we should answer that one.
Okay.
And then we can kind of you want to go ahead and do it now?
I can. So if I am overwhelmed, I also feel oftentimes inadequate. I often feel like that's a indication that I either don't, kind of like you said, I either don't have the knowledge or the skill sets to be doing what I've been tasked with, or there's some level of insufficiency. And then oftentimes my response to that sometimes is to either shut down or to lash out at others, right? And that kind of happened with me earlier on this year when I transitioned in employment. I actually took on 2 different opportunities at the same time. And, you know, I guess part of me sometimes still has that superwoman, black superhero syndrome, where I feel like I'm a black woman, so I should be able to show up at everything, manage everything, you know, as soon as the step in the room, this. And so...
And still be a mama.
And still be a mom.
And still be a
do
sex
everything,
symbol.
right?
Everything.
And so I was like, man, I know what I'm doing. Like I know social work, right? I know resources, but like it was just like I couldn't understand any information. Like I couldn't process everything. Like I was overstimulated by everything that was happening. And you know, I was like, man, I'm just gonna quit. You know, like bump this, I ain't working at all. And it's like, well, hold up, sis. You know that you have responsibilities, right? And let's take a moment back and really what is going on right now. And the truth of it is that I'm just overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed by trying to learn my role in this position. I'm overwhelmed by trying to manage this. My son was transitioning school, so you know there's a lot of things going on, and that's okay. That it's a lot going on. How do we take a step back and, you know, what can I do? So, you know, I don't have to be working 3 or 4 jobs at this point in time, right? You know, one income for me right now is enough to manage, but I also know I got a spending habit. So I do have to work these other jobs, but how can I manage that, you know? Stop going to these people's stores. So it's just simple things that I can do to kind of bring myself back from that. But that feeling of being overwhelmed is really, I think it leads to what you were talking about earlier, that imposter syndrome, you know, the feeling of being rushed and just feeling like, you know, people have false expectations of you. It's just all kind of emotions for me.
Finish your sentence. I am overwhelmed. If I am overwhelmed, I also feel, for me, this has been recent. So my dad died when he was 43, right? And so I'm past that age now. But because he died so early, and on his side of the family, there were some early deaths. When I feel overwhelmed, I go to like I get a physical feeling, right? And then because I get that physical feeling, I start thinking about an early death. Like, am I doing too much? But like, it just goes there. It's almost like I go down a rabbit hole.
Gotcha.
So, you know what we were supposed to be doing?
What?
It says use the emotions wheel.
What's the emotions wheel? I'm sorry.
So this is the emotions wheel, right?
What's on it?
And so the emotions wheel, it's a wheel of emotions, because a lot of times, me and Dee have spoken to this at different points in times. We ask people, how you doing? I'm good. Good is not an emotion.
Okay.
I'm fine. Fine is not an emotion.
What's the emotions
The
on
emotions on here are sad, happy, guilt, afraid, shame, jealous, excited, and angry. Right now, with that, there's multiples you can Google. And we said this on some other episode. We talked about this. There's multiple different emotional wheels, but this is pretty much the base, right? With anger being a secondary emotion, actually, influenced by the rest of them. But that's neither here nor there. So to appropriately answer this, sometimes we don't read all the way. I didn't. If I am overwhelmed, I also feel. And if I'm using the emotional wheel, afraid would probably be the closest one for me. I use the word anxious, but it makes me afraid. I become anxious. I have this physical sensation. Then I become afraid that I'm going to have an early death. And I haven't completed the things that I wanted to complete. I haven't shared with my kids what I wanted to share. I haven't built a great enough legacy, so on and so forth. So, I also feel afraid. And then here goes the task that Josh keep asking about. What do you have the urge to do in response to this feeling? And that varies. Like, it's situational, like you said. Sometimes I do just like, I ain't doing nothing. Then other times I have the thought of, I'm supposed to know the answer. I'm supposed to know what to do.
inadequate.
Yeah. Then sometimes it's like you just shutting down, like slowing down. Shutting down is just not, to me, it's not the same. Shutting down and just not doing anything is not the same. Yeah. But sometimes it's giving you the same type of behavior because no movement is there. But that's what I have the urge to do. Now, what I do to help me out of that, for those of you who don't like God, I hate it for you, but I pray, because that brings me back to that type of stillness and that peace to allow me to then go to the next step. I have actually found myself doing this in the last 12 months. I've been doing a little bit more regulated breathing.
Okay.
So I breathe to kind of help myself with processing whatever it is that I'm becoming overwhelmed on, and then deciding on what the actual next move is. So those two things I actually have implemented is prayer and regulated breathing.
Can I see that card? I just want to see it.
Oh, you want to do it over now, don't you?
No, I want to take a picture. I see
Would you change anything if you use your emotional wheel?
I don't think I would change anything if I use the emotional wheel. I think my two emotions that I would identify with is shame and afraid. I think the notion of the inadequacy, I'm shameful to the fact that I don't have the answers because, I pride myself on being able to be a solution, whether that's a solution for myself or a solution for other people. And sometimes that's a double-edged sword. And I think being transparent, I think anytime that we feel overwhelmed and we feel like we don't have control over what is happening, it's gonna make us afraid, right? That creates a feeling of fear. And so when you feel that, you do have to manage and work through it. And I think one of the things you talked about was that moment of processing, and whatever that looks like for you, whether that's the breathing, whether that's the praying, whether that's the, time of self-reflection. Because sometimes in that moment of overwhelmness, it's not really about the situation, but the feeling itself. And so being able to say, have I experienced this feeling before? And what was beneficial or what was helpful to me in that moment that allowed me to get through that, right? Because if I've been through tough times, that's one thing that really stays on my mind. If I've made it through so many things, I know that God wouldn't bring me this far to end me now, right? So in every experience, in every test, there's a lesson. So what is it that this experience is teaching me?
And what I said earlier, for the people that don't believe in God or whatever, this is a mental health podcast. So like I want the focus to be mental health, but I can't deny that aspect of me. That my belief, my faith is important to me. Now, with that being said, as a therapist, I don't bring that into therapy. I don't bring it into the room. Individuals can bring it into the room if they so choose, and I can have that conversation because that's a part of me. But you don't. That's not. I'm not leading in with that. Nor do I necessarily identify as a Christian therapist. Some people identify as such, and then they bring that. When you go to them, that's going to be a part of that therapeutic process, and they have. I'm saying that because people should know therapists have an option of what they give and provide in therapy, how they deliver therapy. There's different ways to deliver therapy. So if you want that aspect, you can go look for a Christian therapist. Or it's the same way that you can go look for a trauma-focused therapist. Or the same way that you can look for somebody who is certified in hypnotherapy, which I'm not certified in. But when I spoke to that earlier, that's kind of what my thought process was behind that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. All right. Anything else? I was going to kind of end it there because we can just keep going on and on with this game.
I thought it was good, man.
Yeah, I really think this game is important. It's an important strategy, and it's really thought evoking. I think it speaks to kind of everything that we kind of discussed in this, because I think you have to be mindful of who you play this game with, right? People
yes.
who are really going to be open and transparent about their experience. I think it's important to know that no matter who you are, even us as therapists, we have triggers, we have mindsets, we have thoughts that prohibit and impact us in our everyday life. And so nobody's beyond these activities. And, this is really conversational. And when you want to talk about how do we get to know people, how do we take off these masks, I think these cards are a good way to do that, because it really is like, without sharing some of the things, I would have never knew that. Like, right, the fact that we all have moments of joyous where we want to be able to share and connect with people and tell people, but also we also have that fear of, I don't want nobody to dim that light, and what that feels like, and how do we respond to that, and just normalizing the emotions that we experience as humans. And so I'm grateful that I had an opportunity to participate, and I'm even more grateful that I felt comfortable enough and safe enough in this space and to share that with y'all. So I definitely appreciate it.
When you said that about making sure you are doing this with somebody who's open and transparent, one of the things that she said, one of the comments she got as a review was somebody who did it didn't learn enough about the person that they was doing it with, right? Well, if that person's not ready,
right,
or if that person's not honest, you're not going to find out certain things. And sometimes people just not ready to give that type of information. So this is more specifically designed for the individual. It's not designed for you necessarily to learn about somebody. That's what you have those relationship cards for, those relationship games. You can more than likely learn a lot about them, but this is designed for the individual to go through and learn about themselves. Now, if you do it with your partner and they willing to do the work that you're doing, then yes, y'all can learn a lot about each other, but this is designed for the individual to do in the comfort of their home with themselves or with their therapist. So thank y'all for tuning in to this another episode of Speaking with Gravity.
Yes, sir.
Again, I hope you found this episode just as insightful as the other ones that we've done. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us a review. Leave us a comment that we may be able to respond to. I know Josh has responded. I believe D has responded to some comments in the past. I might have responded to a couple of them. But even if we don't respond where you can see it, maybe we can create a whole nother episode based on something that you put in a review or comment. We do clips and reels, so watch those and speak to us, talk to us.
Please.
How, Josh, can they get in contact with you? D, how can they get in
Appreciate
contact with you,
Appreciate
Josh?
it, Kervin. So on LinkedIn, Joshua Williams, and on other social media is at Garvey for Prayers. So at GARVEY, the number 4 PRES.
All right. And D, you want them to get in contact with you? Don't y'all be sliding in DMs.
I'm available LinkedIn, Facebook, D Carpenter, Instagram, Snapchat, any of those, Kodak Ready.
Okay.
Kodak ready.
And then, of course, if you want to be in contact with me, just look for Gravity Counseling Group or Speaking with Gravity. And then you should be able to find me and get in contact with me in that way. As always, take care of your mental well-being. Continue to have these important conversations because conversation is the start, is the key. Thank you for being here and being involved with us. You could be anywhere in the world, but you chose to be with us, and we appreciate that. This isn't therapy. It's a podcast.